Let's face it, Internet. If you're not at Snakes and Lattes or whatever your local board game cafe is, you probably don't have a game guru handy to tell you what game you should play next. So, Jonathan Moriarity, senior game guru here at Snakes and Lattes, is trying to solve that problem for you. He's developed a website called pickagame.com. I'm going to sit down with Jonathan and ask him some questions.
I think I've been playing games since shortly before I could speak, pretty much. It took me a while to get into the point where I was actually making games, because it never occurred to me you could actually make your living doing something like that. It had to be pointed out to me by somebody else when I was like 20. But since then, I've done a self-publishing gig, I've published my own games, I've designed, I've developed, I've art directed, I've worked at retail, but my favorite thing so far in the world of gaming has definitely been doing the game guru job here at Snakes. It's an online board game recommendation service. It's a way to find a game that's well suited to you, that's not dependent on things like genres, like I want a strategy game or I want a party game, and not dependent on any of the really sort of standard preconceived ideas of what a game player is. Instead, it's based on the question, why do you play? I've become convinced that the way to find out what kind of games somebody is going to like or not like is to understand why they play. And there are so many different reasons we all have for that, and the way it makes recommendations is by taking into account the things that you most look for in a game. Not necessarily particular designers, not necessarily particular mechanics or categories of game, but the actual reason why you sit at the table to play in the first place. The best bet is probably, once they watch the opening video, is to try the quick pick. That's the first thing that they get led to once they've started it. The quick pick is the fastest, simplest way to get a recommendation there. It's not as accurate as the others, but it's still fun to play with. You know, you play with the little controls and say, okay, I want something more serious. No, I want something more silly. No, I want something more intense. No, I want something more laid back. And by moving those sliders around and saying how many people are playing and how old the youngest player is, different recommendations will keep coming up. It's responsive. Every time you make a change to the parameters, what you're looking for, new recommendations come up. You can click on those, take a look at what's there, find out how they work and why they're fun, according to people who think they're fun. And if you want to buy them, there's links for that there as well. Once you've done that, the next step is to try the personality quiz. That's a more in-depth sort of thing. It takes about 3 minutes to do. And by the end of that, we'll have a much clearer idea of your motivations for playing, what it is you really look for. And that's when you move to the basic pick. If you're feeling ambitious after that, you can try the advanced pick. There's also another way to get a fast one. That's with search by similar. You can search games by title or by designer, this sort of thing. If you want to find a game that's similar to stuff that you know you like, okay, I know I like Risk and I know I like Yahtzee. What else should I try? It's been about 6 years so far, and it's going to be an ongoing process as well. I knew that we were onto something useful the first time that I did a search, and there weren't very many games in the database at that point, but when something came up and I had to think for a second, wait, why did you recommend that? And then I had to sort of reverse engineer, wait, no, it's because there's that many players. Oh, and by that point I realized this thing can actually make recommendations that I would not necessarily come up with. And every time I showed it to various different people, whether I knew them or not, there would be circumstances where somebody would put some parameters in there and say, oh, the number one recommendation is actually my favorite game. I knew I was onto something when that started happening. For the most part, it's players who are relatively new to the board game hobby and people who have been in it for 1 or 2 years. By the time you've been playing games for a long time, especially if you've played a lot of them and gotten really heavily into the hobby, your taste is going to be much more nuanced. You've had more experience with these things, and your likes and dislikes are going to be sufficiently complex that I don't think any computer system is going to be able to model that properly. But thankfully, at that point, you no longer need a recommendation system to tell you what you like and don't like. You can go to something like BoardGameGeek.com, and the information that's there will actually make sense to you now.
Right.
Quite a few things. Unique user logins will allow people to not only have their collection logged, but also to save different moods. So instead of having to go to the advanced pick and have all these different things set up for a particular thing, you can save those results. And then, all right, I'm feeling thinky today. I'm thinking drunk today. I'm feeling exhausted today. So you don't have to go and put in all the information again a second time. You can just load things up and make modifications to that. Best way is just head straight over and remember the dashes.
Okay.
But there's a lot there. There's a blog. There are going to be regular videos coming out. There's a fair bit of information about the 8 personality types, the 8 types of players, as well as the various different elements that games can have involved in them. But the best thing to do is just play with the controls. Again, start with a quick pick, try the other ones, you can't break it. Just play around with them, see what comes up. You might be surprised at what gets recommended.
So there you have it, Internet. Snakes and Lattes senior game guru Jonathan Moriarty is trying to single-handedly put game gurus all over the world out of work. Let us know how he did by visiting pickagame.com, trying it out, and then coming back and commenting here on the video. Did pickagame.com pick a good game for you and your group? As always, you can ask us questions at AskSnakes@snakesandlattes.com, and you can follow us on Twitter @snakesandlattes. For now, I'm Nick from Board Game Brawl saying, get out there and game every day in every way. Wait, what? What? That doesn't make any sense. I'm not Nick.